Welcome back to Watchbox Studios. I'm your host, Tim Masso. This is Watches Tonight. This evening, we're chatting live. We're talking the best sub $5,000 luxury watches, and I share your Wristshots tonight on Watches Tonight. Sean's on the switcher with us just off screen, guys. Visit thewatchbox.com to see our multiple daily refreshes of the new arrivals. We are updating all day long. This is a living, breathing market. Open up a different tab, keep me streaming, and check out thewatchbox.com for pre-owned and vintage watches. Let's see, we've got Watchusiast joining us from Dubai late in the night. We've got Enrique Casiano, Miroslav joining in, Watches with Dennis from Kansas, Matt Foster, Marco B, The Real 2 Fly from Bethpage on Long Island, Kevin H, we got Paul, we've got Dave, Mateo C, Jerry Adams, JW, Justin J from San Diego, we got Rob Filmer from Chicago, and Mike P with Dave Opencar, Eric N, Lord with the Passport, and Cam. Welcome to all of you. We also have Young XLNC from Atlantic Canada and Mr. J from Chicago. Plus, Keystar G60 staying up with a slate in Suffolk, not Suffolk, Long Island, this time Suffolk in England. All right, check out my Instagram page where I recently charted my experience at the New York Auto Show and posted an extract of the 3-hour Invicta infomercial. Yes, it's real and allegedly live. Check out 60 seconds of it if you can bear on my Instagram. All right, guys, viewers shots number 1, Sam N of DC, that's Washington, DC, rolls in his Ferrari FF with 4 different speeds of Rolex Daytona. That is the most extreme watches and wheels we've ever featured. Luis reports from Watches and Wonders Geneva with Philip Barat, head of watch development at Patek Philippe. We have both 5270p and the new 5224R Rose Gold dual time. We have Derek D of the UK watching Formula One with his Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Bumblebee in ceramic and forged carbon fiber. We've got Tim M, not this Tim M, the other Tim M. You could see his collector conversation on Watchbox Studios, and he reports from Watches and Wonders with his Vacheron Constantin Overseas Chronograph Panda. We've got Max L of Bavaria, Germany, celebrating the simplicity of the micro-rotor automatic Patek Philippe Calatrava 5033J. Looking good, a wonderful piece and a wonderful watch. Guys, send your Wristshots of wonderful watches to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com. All right, who else is here? We have a question about how that picture in the Ferrari was taken, and I definitely have to agree. I would love to see the mechanics of that. Abdul R from Germany joining in. Peter A, hello from Brisbane. He's one of those folks who's getting up early with us, and we appreciate that. Mr. Nodate joins in the evening from London, and C. Flynn, another one of our friends from San Diego. We have Tobister saying, hey Tim, just bought a Mint Explorer 2 from you guys. Oh no, Explorer Two-Tone, not Explorer 2, Explorer Two-Tone from you guys. Another excellent service transaction. Thank you so much for the shout out. We appreciate that. And we've got SoCal Watch Addict asking, with the updated 2023 bezel on the Cermet, the previous screen is more or less desirable. I'm always a little bit cynical about these shifting shades on modern ceramic bezel Rolex watches. I sort of wonder, A, whether they're real, and then if they are real upon closer examination, whether it actually matters. Sometimes with Rolex, I think we distinguish these things just for the sake of playing the Rolex game, which ultimately was born of references, auction catalogs, and eBay listings. All right, jumping back into our regularly scheduled program, $5,000 watches and under. Well, what's new or still available in 2023? Because frankly, I'm a little bit exhausted with the price of watches, just like I'm kind of exhausted with the price of cars. I love a watch that gives me the real luxury, lifetime, heirloom quality watch experience without the Mercedes-Benz C-Class entry-level price. So let's talk about a watch that's revived and revised for this year. We can debate bezel shades, but there is undoubtedly a new color for the dial of the 2023 Tudor Black Bay GMT. Now this one is fundamentally the Black Bay GMT that's been around since 2018, but it stokes the fires of controversy, maybe, with a provocative white dial. Now this one's a weird combination of a Rolex GMT Master 2, a 1950s Rolex GMT Master 6542 Pan Am Executive Dial, if you believe that's real, and the late 60s to mid 70s Tudor Submariner Snowflake dials. But the #1 reference here is that alleged executive model of the first generation GMT Master with the white dial. Is it real? Is it some sort of disfigured dial? Is it patina? Was it made years later? Who knows? This, though, is unarguably factory, and it adds some fuel to the fire. For years we've been saying Rolex will not make a retro watch, but it seems Tudor is more than comfortable making retro tribute versions of Rolex watches. So within the broader Rolex Tudor universe, we do in fact have quasi-vintage reeditions. Now, 42 millimeters in stainless steel, this Black Bay is a modern-sized watch, and at 200 meters rated depth, it's seriously sealed up for a pilot-style watch. Remember, those tend to be 30 to 60 meters. You can absolutely take this swimming. Dual-time capability in 12 and 24-hour formats is great to have for travel or to keep track of far-flung associates. It's got a date, it's highly anti-magnetic with a silicone hairspring, COSC rated as a chronometer, and it has an automatic winding 3-day power reserve. And I give Tudor credit for not cursing this retro dial with Fotina. They played this fairly straight up. For something with so many vintage references packed into one 42mm case, they showed exceptional discretion by not making their Rolex Tudor Snowflake Chapter Ring GMT Master dial also a Fotina. And I have to say that $4,300 on a bracelet, mind you. Remember what the current Rolex GMT now costs. Basic Rolex GMT Master, Pepsi, or Batman on an oyster bracelet, $10,700. Spend far less than half that and get the Tudor. I don't see why you wouldn't get the Tudor. It's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit larger, but at the end of the day, I feel like you're getting the same watch for less than half the price. Okay, so that's what Tudor's doing. Tudor's actually doing a lot new, but I thought that was the standout. There's a couple of new models, but for under $5,000, if I'm buying a new Tudor for 2023, it's either going to be a Black Bay 58 in sterling silver, or it's going to be that new GMT. Oh, but there are other big group entry-level options here, because a brand we haven't discussed in ages had a surprising star at Watches and Wonders, and that was Bowman and Mercier. Bowman Mercier, to the rest of us, launched this Riviera Azure 300-meter diver. Now, the Riviera, dormant for decades, returned last year as an integrated bracelet sports watch, and it has authentic history dating back to the original from 1973, when it was above and beyond a lot of the upscale rivals in the integrated bracelet category. Really, only Rolex and Audemars Piguet got into integrated bracelet luxury before the original Riviera. The original was also designed by Jean-Claude Guette, who is the father of Emmanuel Guette, designer of the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore. So there's an indirect Royal Oak link there as well. Now, a Bowman Riviera diver, first of all, I love the translucent sapphire and blue on the dial. It's also available in black, but it's a really good-looking watch. If we could jump back to the blue real quick, you can see that they coordinate the strap, they coordinate the dial, they coordinate the seconds hand, the piping on the crown, as well as the rubber inserts on the bezel. And there's a lapping machine radio grain on the bezel that actually looks awesome. And guess what? A big win for Fotina. I never thought I'd like it, but in this case, it's a nice third complementary color to add a little bit of warmth. The watch is derivative of basically nothing but Bowman Mercier's own history, which is refreshing in an era when companies with no history in divers or integrated bracelet sports watches are getting into the game. So you got a black dial as well, which comes on a version of the bracelet also offered on the blue, or a black strap. You can see it has matching black features, and this one does not have the Fotina. So if that makes you angry, go for the black dial version. You got a rotating bezel that is like the original, a dodecagon, so it has 12 sides. And there is a full bracelet option with matching strap. And I think the thing to do is to get the bracelet and then just add the strap as an accessory if it doesn't already come with the watch. So the Bowmatic 5-day automatic caliber makes this one horologically interesting because you've got an automatic, an exclusive caliber, and a 5-day power reserve. There's also a quick release system for the bracelet and the strap, so without tools you can swap between them. And reasonably priced, $4,350 to get it on the bracelet. Sure, you can save $200 and get it on the strap, but for a $200 upcharge to get a full bracelet, and a high quality one at that, I think it's a no-brainer to go for the bracelet, and if you must, add a couple of accessory straps afterwards. There are other Riviera options. There's that regular fixed bezel model we saw earlier, and then there's a GMT. So the GMT is a nice looking piece, but it comes with a standard ETA base movement. So horologically speaking, it's not as interesting, but it does have a $3,100 retail price, which makes it fairly attractive as entry-level GMTs go from major brands. And then there's the Clifton Bowmatic Day-Date Moon Phase. This one actually came out in green about a year ago, and what a winner. We have a fume dial, we have a lovely steel case, we have multiple complications, day, date, moon phase, again with the 5-day power reserve, and that one's right on the nose, $5,000. So I can see opting for that over a whole host of other Richemont Group dress watches and dress watches from other brands. This is a great deal. Bowman Mercier absolutely red hot over the last 24 months. I never thought I would say that. Let's see what's going on in the box here. Abdul R, always go for the bracelet. We have Mark S opining that rubber inserts ruin this watch. And then we have Abdul saying the blue one looks better than the black. I think it's a good release for Bowman Mercier. And then Andrew T agreeing with Mark S saying, I fully agree, it's too much of everything in one watch. Time Hill saying definitely get the bracelet. The Watch Lounge just joining in right now. Antelope 1013 saying the green moon phase is legit. Less than $5,000, good deal. And you will be able to get it for less than $5,000. Look, Longa might be able to charge a ransom if they're bundling with the Odysseus these days. And Vacheron's doing very well with the overseas, but most Richemont brands are all about discounts, especially on dress watches. Then we have a question from Norm M. How does it stack up to Oris? I'm glad you asked, because we're going to talk a little bit about Oris later in this program. Andrew T, any possibility of a live show about cars from you, Tim? Yes, but I would need to figure out where that goes. I feel like it would be out of place here on Watchbox Reviews. But if we were to maybe feature an occasional live car show, why not? I'd be happy to do it. It's my favorite thing in the world. There are two pillars of my life. Well, other than family and friends. Other than family and friends, there's watches and there's cars, and I would love to find a way to feature both right here. We have Davis asking thoughts on the Oyster Perpetual 41. If you can wear it, go for it. Just beware, this is bigger than a 40mm Rolex. If you've worn 40mm Rolex watches in the past, make sure this fits, because it's a big watch and you wouldn't expect that from an OP. Okay, I also think it is important to mention that Sean's doing a great job back there. When you see pictures, that is Sean. And if you've ever wondered where these images come from, it's Sean or it's Sid or it's Garrett making the magic happen, and I'm always grateful for the turns they put in back there. They are the unsung heroes of this program. Now, making a return from 2022's $5,000 watch battle is the 2023 and still available Pelagos LHD. The left-hand drive, this one goes way back to 2016. 42mm in titanium, so not new, but still an excellent option this year. And just underneath our $5,000 limit. The clasp features 3 different adjustment systems. There's an extensible spring-loaded system that expands or contracts with the wrist. There are a couple of set points where you can anchor the extension. And then there is a fold-out extension. So you've got a couple of different ways. That's a great clasp. There's a couple of different ways to extend on the wrist for diving or for sizing. Comes on a bracelet with an extra rubber strap. I love the value when a brand includes both. We got a vintage style Tudor snowflake dial here. It kills me a bit with the Fotina, but at least it's tasteful. And the closer you get, surprisingly for a budget watch, the more impressive it is, with applique solid blocks of luminova and a lovely sort of grained pattern on the dial. And note that the printing on the dial matches the lume. That's attention to detail. We also have lume, which is beastly, and well, you might not expect it on a watch with a ceramic bezel. The whole bezel is lumed, so you can see the entirety of it in the dark. We have this Tudor left-hand drive that includes a reverse roulette date. So a conventional roulette date features red odds and black evens. This one features red evens and black odds. It's because this one does everything in reverse. So it's upside down day. All available with a 5-year warranty like the other Tudor watch we discussed earlier. That's also available with 5 years, and $4,950. Now, this being Tudor and a dive watch, I don't expect discounts, but you're solidly in under the $5,000 mark getting into this Tudor diver. Okay, let's see what you guys have to say. Captain Kirk saying, wow, I dig that blue watch, Tim. We got William Rizzo saying, hello, people, from the Villages in Florida. The Villages is a giant community of like-minded folks down in Florida, for those of you wondering what it is. It's a sort of retirement community the size of a town in its own right. We have a question from Azure Strike 126000 or 124270. Honestly, I think you got to put them on the wrist and decide, because there's a lot of similarity in the footprint, but difference in the presence and the character. I can't tell you which one to choose, though I like the purity of the 126000. All right, what else is going on here? We got a shout out for Sean from Jerry Adams. Come on out, Sean, show yourself. Sean, why don't you come around? Just walk out. Say hi and wave to everyone.
Hello.
Sean also does all the post-production and the directorial work on a lot of the collector conversations, and he's the wrist model you see in Collector's Guide. So now you know. The more you know. All right, so Mark S. Tim, did the new 50 Fathoms switch to blocks of lume to save dollars on gold indices? I'm going to say maybe. We don't really know a lot about the new 50 Fathoms. We know that what we've seen so far have been special editions or limited editions, so it's not entirely clear that the ultimate new 50 Fathoms is going to be the block lume dial in the 42.4 case, albeit without the anniversary legend. So let's see what they've actually got for us before we pass judgment. But if they do go to blocks of lume, then yeah, I'm going to agree with you. It looks like they're trying to pinch pennies, because that's a weird treatment on a very expensive watch. And what else can I say? Well, I asked, you answered. And Joseph C. leads off from the Great Smoky Mountains with the rarely seen raw ornament bronze from Holtenrichs. So a very cool watch with a super set of lugs and a lovely set of hands. By the way, those Breguet Arabic numerals on the green dial, they absolutely make it happen. Very cool piece. Chris T and his Rolex Daytona are in Monkey Park outside Nagano Prefecture, or I should say inside Nagano Prefecture, outside the Monkey Pen in Japan. By the way, how much do you love that rubber strap on a steel ceramic Daytona? Jeff R. reports from Dallas, somewhat ominously, with his Mont Blanc 50 Fathoms, Bathyscaphe chronograph, and Mont Blanc 1917 JFK pen. Rob H. captures a his and hers shot from Palm Island in the Florida Keys, one of my favorite places in the world. And Ron H. combines Omega Breitling and man's second best friend with a his and hers shot while watching American baseball. Guys, send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see those pieces on these pixels. Thomas Burnett opining Breitling have some under 5K picks. The Super Oceans and Avenger Night Mission GMT are good selections. We have Vishal K saying, wish they'd release something 40 millimeters, which is not a limited edition. Just remind me which brand we're talking about there, Vishal. We also have Zach S. joining in late. That's okay. We don't mind. And Abdul saying that white rubber bee is awesome. Sean Hansen saying there's a couple of great Cartiers under $5,000 with automatic movements, and this is true. We've got Davey85 saying I think 42 millimeters is just about perfect for the 50 Fathoms. I'm not into the trend of sub 40 millimeter divers. And then we've got Gobri saying that's a smug cat look. Well, it is both a cool cat and a smug cat. And then we have Vishal saying 50 Fathoms. Okay, I can see that. It would be nice to see a regular offering in 40 millimeters that's not a limited edition and doesn't feature some sort of weird graphic or signature on the dial. I'm going to agree with you there. We got Cam asking, should I sell my GMT Pepsi and get a sub? Silly idea? No, not if you find you don't often use the second time zone. I like a dive watch for two reasons. One, when you get the sub, you get the glide lock with a lot of adjustability. 10 stops, 20 millimeters total adjustment. That's worth its weight in gold if you find that you shift sizes a lot. Plus, I'm also going to say that I use a dive bezel more than I use the second time zone. And dive bezels for timing beat the pants off everything. They're great for reminders. An offset dive bezel will always remind me that there's something I needed to remember that day. And when timing, I find I rarely use a chronograph for more than an hour. A dive bezel can do that. So it's like two watches in one. We got the Johnny Viewer. Greetings from holidays in Rome, wearing Santos from 82 when in Rome. Do as the Romans do. Okay, I like that. Thank you so much for joining me during your vacation. So let's jump into a few of my favorite sub $5,000 watches. The 2023, here's a brand that I love, Ball Watch Engineer M Skin Diver 3 Beyond. So 40.1 millimeters in stainless steel. It's a good size. It's under 14 millimeters thick. It's an interesting Swiss-American brand. Their corporate offices are here. The production's in Switzerland, I believe in Les Chaux de Fonds. This is a handsome diver that's got a lovely blue dial. It's got wonderful proportions. I love the no crown guard look. It has a self-activating tritium dial, so you don't need to flash it against a light before dark falls. It will self-activate. It has a matching loomed bezel, which is actually Luminova, so you can see it looks awesome, fully calibrated for nighttime use, with a Blanc pan-like sapphire cap over the Luminova. And it's not a flat sapphire cap like we've seen on a lot of cheaper watches with sapphire caps. This one is cambered and rounded like a 50 fathoms. It's got a watch movement that I've been dying to see. It hasn't crossed my path yet, but the Ball automatic caliber RRM7309C, this is Ball's own movement, packed with features including an anti-magnetic silicone hairspring, an 80-hour automatic winding power reserve, a COSC Swiss chronometer certification, and it benefits from Ball's amortizer anti-shock device, offering protection against instantaneous impulse shocks of up to 5,000 Gs. Now, Ball bracelets tend to be very, very solid and rife with tangible quality, so I'm looking forward to experiencing this one. I think that this is a fantastic watch. As a limited edition of 1,000 pieces, it's going to be scarce, and the price is right at $3,699. I really think Ball nailed this one. This is like a 50 fathoms in the right size for a whole lot less money. What's going on here? Mr. No Date says, balls are great, but you need to get them in hand to appreciate them. I agree with that. They feel so substantial. They feel almost Rolex solid. Really, Rolex Omega, that's the comparable for feel in the hand, especially with the bracelet. We've got Thalai asking, Tim, would you still wear a gold watch in the city given increased watch-related crime? It seems many of these watches can only work in the suburbs now. I think some cities might be as dangerous as their reputations imply, but I'm also going to opine that a lot of them are not. Here in Philadelphia, I've never had a problem. Obviously, there are some parts of the city that are more dangerous than others, and some watches are more visible than others. But I've been through New York City a bunch of times in the last year, including at night, including on both sides of Manhattan, including in the boroughs, and I haven't had any issues. Be smart. Only wear expensive watches in situations where you're 100% comfortable. Read the scouting reports if you're going to a place where you're not familiar, even if it's just part of town or part of the city that you haven't experienced recently. I know that watches, Watch Time LA was canceled last spring, and that was largely due to security concerns. I don't know if those were borne out, because I was just in LA walking all over the place with no problems wearing expensive watches. So I'm going to say do your research. Obviously the headlines are scary, but if you only follow the headlines in the United States, you would imagine that every single day there's a mass shooting, a car chase, and a plane crash. So when you see the same news 50 times a day, no matter where you are, stateside or abroad, it can seem a whole lot worse than it is. So know your turf. That's my advice. And never wear anything you can't afford to lose. Insurance can help on that front. And obviously there's white gold and then there's the other golds in terms of visibility. We have a question about Zinn. Is Zinn in the show today? Well, you'll have to stay tuned. But we're going to talk about Oris. We had some questions about Oris. Now you can get yourself into an Oris Aquas diver with a 5-day power Reserve and the Caliber 400 for $3,700. But I'm going to opt for the 2023 Oris ProPilot X. This is actually a watch that's been on the market for a year. There is more to this line than the 2023 Kermit. That's a lot of fun, but you will pay a premium to own it. The standard ProPilot X costs a little bit less. Oris offers a full range of this model, which as you can see starts at $4,300. 39 millimeters in titanium is a recipe for a win in today's market, especially with an integrated bracelet sports watch. You've got a clean dial with a lovely textured graining. You have wonderfully sculpted and faceted case, lug, bezel with a wonderful sort of slash-cut turbine-like knurling that I adore. And there's real ambition in the appearance of this watch. It looks like it costs multiples of its real price. You can even see a mirror of the sort of turbine-like knurling on the outer face of the crown, so no detail was left overlooked. It'll give you as much pleasure as stuff costing multiples more. Believe me, on the wrist you're going to have just as much fun, and the Oris gives you some things the Audemars Piguet does not, like 100 meters of water resistance, like 2,250 Gauss anti-magnetism, like the Caliber 400 with its 5-year times 2, 10-year warranty, and its 5-day power reserve. And yes, you heard me right, 10-year warranty. Register it with Oris, get an extra 8 years of warranty for a grand total of a full decade. It has unique micrometric adjustment systems that allow Oris to promise it'll run no worse than -3 + 5 seconds per day. You get no promise of accuracy from Audemars Piguet with their big piece that you just saw. And all of this costs $4,300. It comes in a minimalist box, which I appreciate. A box that's handsome but doesn't take up your whole closet is welcome on a high-quality watch. So that's what Oris is offering. And believe me, when I say I would rather wear this than a Royal Oak, I'm being 100% sincere. I could afford either one. I would rather wear the Oris. I think it's a better watch. Is everything as hand-finished as the Audemars Piguet? No. But knowing how automated the Royal Oak production process is, including movements today, I don't feel like I'd be losing a whole lot with the Oris. Okay, jumping right in, we have Curtis A., one of our friends from Southern California, naval aviator and watch collector. He says, the rain here in SoCal has been insane. It looks like the clear skies and Austin Healey driving weather the rest of the month. That's a good thing. There's nothing like a vintage roadster on a clear Southern California day. I'm quite jealous. I got to make another trip to our LA office. We got Rick on Watches saying Ball can be great pre-owned buys. That's true. They're well priced new, but they're even better pre-owned. And you're not giving up a whole lot buying something pre-owned when the product has a service life of 300 to 400 years like a luxury watch does. Curtis asking Edward Ledden, what model Jaguar? Do you have a 67 or earlier XKE? That's the next in the stable for me. I would say my next classic car, if I had to say, would be a 1965 Buick Riviera Super Wildcat Grand Sport, or I would love to have a 1965 fuel-injected Stingray with the disc brakes. What else is going on? Amit K. Tim, do you think Resence will ever make an oil watch 40 millimeters or less? Yes, I think they will. I think that's the direction the market's going in. And then we said, John D. Oof, Tim just said AP, not much more hand-finished than an Oris. On the bracelet, the case, and the bezel, yes, the AP is more hand-finished. On the movement, I look at them and I get the feeling that they're both highly automated. There might be a little bit more handling on the AP, but if you want an integrated bracelet sports watch with a truly hand-finished movement, you're going to want to buy something like a Longa Odysseus. You're not going to get it from a Royal Oak, not a standard one. Even the Jumbo with the 7121 movement is a lot less hand-finished than the old 2121. Okay, we have Captain Kirk saying my next car is an Uber. You know, my dream car is a Karma, which is ridiculous because I know how compromised they are, and yet I still do it. It's like buying a Vianney halter watch. You're so in love, you realize how much trouble you're going to get yourself into. All right, jumping back into the discussion, small brands. Sartori Biard, the SB04 from Armand Biard of France, artisan and designer. comes a lovely, clean breakthrough watch that introduced him in a lot of ways to the same kind of customer who's looking at something like an Anordain. If you're prizing dial quality above all and clean design, this is your brand. A breakout model for his brand with signature fired titanium dials, including fired purple and blue. He's offered meteorite dials, guilloche dials. One of his specialties is the decoration of hands, chapter rings, indices, numerals, in combination with artisanal dial bases. You get some really cool stuff from Armand. Now, the SB04 is 40 millimeters in titanium or steel, your choice, colors, patterns, styles, so much customization offered here. He uses an STP13 automatic base, and they have a wonderful 44.5 millimeter lug-to-lug that makes them very, very wearable, even on small wrists. Difficult to say sometimes when things are priced in euros, because often VAT is factored in, but his prices appear to range from $3,000 to $5,000 for the SB04, depending on the level of customization. And I say for $5,000 with everything customized, guys, why not go all out? Checking out viewer Wristshots, Eric O follows the Masters with his appropriately mint green Rolex Datejust. Stefano R reports from behind the wheel of his vintage Nissan GTR with his Trilobe Nuit. Christopher H prepares a lecture on dive medicine with his Rolex Sea Dweller 4000 116600, a highly collectible 3-year production modern Rolex diver. Dr. S relaxes with his Rolex Date 8 in San Sebastian, Spain on La Conca Beach, looking great. That is the watch for the locale. Thomas P of France greets the spring with barbecue and an Oris afternoon. Guys, send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your wrist on my list. Okay, William Rizzo joining in. We've got Marcus D. Tim, any thoughts on Fear's watches? Something about the Brunswick is really alluring to me. I like the people behind the brand. They have integrity and a real respect for history. I'd say purchase with confidence. C. Flynn saying, have a SB and Anordain, both are great, but the process of making the Sartori Biard was so fun. Mark S. Tim, why do you like Fisker Karmas so much? Well, I had the original Fisker Karma, which was great for exactly 2 reasons. One, the design inside and out, and the handling. It beat the pants off the Tesla Model S in those 2 regards only. But the newer Rivero and GS6 are made by a new company that inherited the bones of the old Fisker. So there's a new Fisker that has nothing to do with the old Fisker, and the car was once the Karma. Now it's the name of the new company, and the car is either the Rivero or the GS6. Got all that? Good. Okay. So I love it because a lot of the problems have been fixed, and it still looks like absolute sex. It's gorgeous inside and out, and I've driven the recent versions, and in addition to being arguably better than any Karma/Fisker to date, they're actually fast, which the original car was not. So I love it for a bunch of reasons, but the big one is just emotional, and I don't think I can rationalize that in any way. Hey, this is a show about expensive timepieces that have been obsolete for 40 years, so you know how I feel about the Karmas. All right, jumping back in. Grand Seiko, watches for $5,000 or less. Grand Seiko Heritage SBGP017. Now this is a 2022 limited edition, but they're still kicking around, so you can still find one of the 2,000 pieces. This marks 55 years of the lovely angular 44GS case shape and its sensational polyhedron lug profiles. Now, I'm going to lose some of you in a moment, but I hope not. 40 millimeters in stainless steel with the Zaratsu tin plate black polished case to go along with dial furniture that are cut on diamond-tipped micrometric milling tools capped by a fired blue steel seconds hand. Now, it's defined by this spectacular blue dial, which they call the Ueo dial, or Ueo pattern, clouds over Shinshu on an early morning. That's the idea. And why do I think I'm going to lose some of you? Because this is a caliber 9F watch, which means luxury quartz, but I hope you'll give it a chance because it's the rare quartz movement that actually warrants a display case back, accurate to 5 seconds per year. Thermocompensated. It has a quartz trimmer to adjust for quartz crystal drift over decades. This is a lifetime movement. Pivots on 9 jewels, and it's actually very, very good looking. Now, The original 9F came out in 1993. It is one of the most accurate watch movements in the world. And at $3,800, this is a well-priced watch, hand-assembled and tuned movement, handcrafted case, handcrafted dial for under $4,000. And while it is arguably dressy at 10.7 millimeters thick, it's also 100 meters water resistant, which is unexpected and welcome. This is a fantastic way to spend $3,800 on a steel all-arounder that will last your lifetime and that of your heirs, and it is truly beautiful inside and out. Now, let's talk about a brand that hasn't featured on the show for a while, but they're still a knockout and still very favorably priced, and that is Reservoir. This is a Swiss-French hybrid that was established back in 2017. The Reservoir Longbridge British Racing Green was a 2018 GPHG nominee in the challenge category, and it is still a value leader among independent brand complications. So, many of the watches that they offer are automotive themed, which I love. They're not automotive co-branded because we know that often doesn't work out. They're automotive inspired, which is often quite successful. And that's the case with the triple complication Longbridge British Racing Green. So you can see there's three things going here. The dial is modeled after a vintage automotive instrument, maybe a clock, maybe a tachometer, maybe a speedometer. The power reserve indicator is at the base, like a fuel gauge, combined with retrograding minutes from 0 to 60, like a speedometer, combined with jumping hours acting as sort of our odometer stand-in. The dial detail is superb. I'm not sure if you can see it in this photo. If you're watching this on a phone or a tablet, probably not, but it's a lovely green with a couple of secondary colors and has a wonderful soft-grained sandpaper-like surfacing, as well as a concave profile. It has a dial detail with both ruby and sapphire, and you can see those mark the two ends of the power reserve scale, acting as stand-in for your engine and headlight high beam lights. Really cool automatic base. It's an ETA 2824, which is a solid and sound tractor movement. This Reservoir was the challenge category nominee at the GPHG in 2018, a prestigious nomination for a watch from a new brand. At 39 millimeters in stainless steel, this is a lot more wearable than other multi-complications and a lot more wearable than a lot of the other Reservoir watches. Even the box is lovely. Beautifully presented, varnished wood with polished metal hardware, a lovely manual that actually shows you the dashboard instrumentation that inspired the watch, and then there's a secondary strap in textile with hardware included, so that's a lot of value for $4,200 US. A full collection is offered here. There's a couple of different versions. You can get it in steel. They're all $4,200 in steel with different dials and different straps. There's one for $17.5 grand in rose gold, but if you want to buy the wacky one, get the $22,800 Blue Dial Palladium model. Still, I think steel is your best bet for value, and these things have an impressive pedigree. They're designed in France, they're built in Switzerland. Telos SA builds these for Reservoir. Telos is best known for designing and building the Harry Winston Opus 14, so a real pedigree and horological street cred right here. This is the watch on the list that's probably of the most personal interest to me. I really like the SB04, especially some of the custom green guilloche dial options. I really like the Kermit dial Oris ProPilot X, but at the end of the day, if I'm spending my own money on one of these, it's probably going to be this Longbridge British Racing Green with 3 complications and a very wearable size. Plus, hey, green. You guys know how I feel about that. All right. Viewer wrist shots number 4. Peter takes a spectacular wrist shot of his Blancpain 50 Fathoms on the road with BMW. Eric T keeps track of time with the JLC Polaris Mariner date dive watch and his Audi RS6. Danny S explores DC on foot with his Grand Seiko SBGP017 Cherry Blossom dial, perfectly situated. UDH drives his BMW X5 in Melbourne with his Panerai Luminor Marina PAM 915. Juan F drives on the right side of the car, which is also the right side of the car, with his JLC Master Reserve Dimanche. Guys, send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com, and please join me on Instagram, Tim_Masso, to see my 1-minute reviews, posted 3 at a time, and quick shots from my life and the world of Tim Masso. Let me know in the chat below and the comments what topics you want to see in the future here tonight on Watches Tonight. Time out, Tim out. Thanks for logging on.